A college student disappears without a trace.
She didn't leave a trail. It was as if she just vanished into thin air.
Police follow every lead, but as years go by, the mystery remains unsolved.
On the 7th year, I was going to have Brandi declared legally dead.
But one determined lawman refuses to give up the search.
We never stop. We don't stop until we find either Brandi or someone who may have killed her.
Can he find the missing woman before it's too late?
Brandi, this is Janine. Just wondering why you haven't shown up to work the last few days.
Brandi, this is Tammy again. I'm getting a little worried.
Brandi, this is your mother. Please return this call as soon as you get in.
A call comes into Moody, Texas police. The caller's concerned. She says she hasn't seen or heard from her sister Brandi Stahr in days.
We received a missing persons report that was filed by Brandi Stahr's sister. We needed to go out and talk with Brandi's sister and her roommate and find out what information they could give us about her disappearance.
Her sister says Brandi went missing after a big fight with their mom.
Every single time, it all goes back to you.
When Brandi and I were arguing, we were arguing about her grades,
What are you doing?
not going to school.
Well, I'll tell you why I waited up, Brandi. I waited up because this came in the mail today.
When I got the results from her last report card, I felt betrayed
You managed to get straight D's.
and let down, and the trust I had in her went out the door.
The next semester will be really different.
Brandi's mother told her she'd have to move home until her grades improved.
No, Mom, I'm not doing that.
She said no. She didn't care. She wasn't coming home.
Well, as long as I'm paying the bills, I
Brandi stormed off. She hasn't been heard from since.
Don't you walk away from me, little lady. You get back here. Brandi.
Looks like a runaway, mad at her mother.
It just appeared that Brandi did not want to have contact with her family and that she was most likely somewhere just unknown to them and not wanting to call.
I figured she'd get over her mad spell and she'd contact somebody, if not me because she was mad, her brothers or her sister.
Weeks go by and Stahr doesn't call home, and none of her friends know where she is.
Early on in the missing persons investigation, you want to determine why that person is missing.
Detective George Duker has seen this kind of thing before. He's worked more than 200 missing persons cases over the past 25 years.
Have they been abducted? Are they endangered? If you choose the wrong path, you're wasting valuable time in the investigation.
Time's passing and Brandi Stahr is still nowhere to be found. Maybe this is more than a case of a runaway college student.
She had gotten paid from the job where she was working and she didn't come and pick up her check, and I knew something had to have been wrong at that point because she obviously wasn't rich and she had to have needed that money.
Leaving behind that paycheck, that's a red flag. They've got to find Stahr and make sure she's all right. They decide to check out Brandi's apartment.
We want to look at the person's residence to determine if maybe there's something that might help us determine where they've gone or what the circumstances were around them leaving. We're always looking for a sign of a struggle or something that would indicate that the person was taken somewhere against their will.
But they can't find a broken window, a drop of blood, or anything that says someone grabbed her. But there is one thing that doesn't make sense. Stahr left behind all of her personal effects.
When someone is missing and it's intentional, they leave on their own. There are certain things that they will take with them that you're going to look for, perhaps even a suitcase from their house.
But Brandi left everything behind, including thousands of dollars worth of clothes. How does a college kid afford all that stuff?
One of these. I'll take them both. This too. Yeah, I'm gonna...
Brandi had very expensive taste, very expensive shoes. She wouldn't go buy a $30 pair of tennis shoes, she'd buy the $130 pair of tennis shoes. And clothes, I don't know if it was laziness or what, but she didn't want to wash them, so she'd just throw them down, go buy some more.
Her mother says Brandi was buying all those new designer clothes with credit cards.
Looking at credit card records is a great investigative tool. It's like a tracking device. You can tell where someone has been or maybe where they're planning on going. Did they purchase airline tickets, make reservations? You can determine their spending habits.
But the credit cards present another possibility.
If a credit card has been stolen, that also tells you things about the missing person. You can tell if that person has stole the credit card, where they've been, where they're going, and if they were perhaps responsible for that missing person.
But when they trace Stahr's credit cards, they discover something else that could explain her disappearance.
During the investigation, we determined that Brandi had accumulated a substantial amount of credit card debt.
Stahr has managed to rack up $25,000 in credit card debt.
Someone with extreme debt, that may be an indicator that something is wrong. They may have been running away from that debt and may have staged their own disappearance to get a fresh start.
It looks like Brandi used these cards nearly every day. Maybe she'll leave a spending trail that cops can follow right to her doorstep. It looks like 20-year-old Brandi Stahr is running away from her debt. But police think they might be able to find the missing woman by tracing her credit cards.
We checked on any financial accounts that she had here locally, checking accounts, credit card statements, and there had been no activity since right before she went missing.
When you have someone using a credit card that often, every day, extensively, and suddenly that spending stops, that could be an indicator that something bad has happened to that person.
And that's just what her family fears the most.
When I hadn't seen Brandi or heard from her in a while, I just thought that someone killed her, because it was just unlike her to not contact me.
At some point, your mind has to go to the thought that she could have been abducted or murdered, because there's no trace at that point.
There's no sign of Stahr, so they take it to the next level. They put her name and description into a national database.
We enter the person's name, race, sex, date of birth, hair color, eye color, any other scars, marks, tattoos, or physical descriptors that would help identify that person.
That way, every time a Jane Doe turns up, the system runs a cross-check.
There's a close match anywhere within the United States that's been entered as unidentified, we'll get that information.
One month after Brandi's name is entered into the computer, there's a hit.
We received information that there was a possible match between an unidentified body and the missing persons record we had entered for Brandi Stahr.
Police in another county found the body of a young woman around the same time Stahr went missing. Could this trip to the morgue solve the mystery surrounding Brandi Stahr?
The unidentified match that we received was not Brandi Stahr.
It's another dead end for police, and it would be their last solid lead for 2 years.
I really thought she was dead, but I didn't. Also, on the other hand, I didn't want to give up. Didn't want to give up hope.
Desperate for answers, Brandi Stahr's mother turns to the Texas Rangers for help. The Rangers are an elite group of cops, the best in the state.
They are very relentless once they start hunting for someone or doing their job. And I felt like they could help.
I was asked if the Rangers could assist in locating Brandi Stahr, if there's anything we could do to maybe revisit the case.
Ranger Matt Cawthon gets this cold case and begins at square one.
Mike, we talked about this. I don't want you pressuring me about moving in together. Things are happening.
We kept pursuing this by traveling around the state, finding people that she knew intimately or people that she knew casually, and interviewing these people and trying to create a lead. Okay, all right, thank you.
During his search, he comes across one of Brandi Stahr's ex-boyfriends.
Well, through our investigation in College Station and in the Bryan area, we found, in this case, a young man she had been dating.
Mike, I'm sorry to hurt your feelings. I just don't think we should see each other anymore, okay?
As an investigator, I know that boyfriends and ex-boyfriends are often good sources of information in these types of cases.
I swear, you are going to regret this day. Right? No one has ever treated you as nice as I did, and no one's ever going to.
When you have two people break up, there's a lot of emotion involved. You may have someone that has this "if I can't have you, nobody can" syndrome working. And therefore, they're a good suspect. There's somebody you want to talk to.
Cawthon brings Stahr's ex in for a talk. He says he hasn't seen or heard from Brandi, but Cawthon wants to make sure.
We said, hey, would you take a polygraph just to make sure? And at first he said yes, and then later on he said, I don't think so. Red flag, why not? He knew that as long as we didn't have a body, we couldn't come after him. We just ran into a brick wall when it came to him.
He can't rule the boyfriend in or out, so he keeps him on the back burner and moves on. And just when he needs a break, Cawthon gets one. An anonymous tip comes in out of nowhere.
Texas Rangers, Matt Collins.
The caller claims that Brandi Stahr is dead and that her body is buried near a church.
So we enlisted the assistance of a search group that will come out with manpower and search dog teams, and will search an area for the remains of someone that we're looking for.
Search teams spend the day looking, but they don't find a thing.
All of the resources that we had at the time could not find any trace of her.
The leads dry up again. Nobody hears a thing. Even Stahr's mother begins to lose hope.
I never thought I'd see Brandi alive. Well, I just knew she'd be dead.
But there could be one more way to solve this. They cross-checked the Stahr case with similar cases in the area.
We had to look at every possibility, and we started looking for any cases in this area where young women had either been abducted or were missing.
All the hard work pays off. There's a match.
There was a serial rapist and killer who had been in that area.
The killer's name, Yanobi Matthews, and Cawthon knows right where to find him. He's on death row. Maybe he knows what happened to Brandi Stahr. Brandi Stahr is missing, and Texas Ranger Matt Cawthon thinks convicted killer Yanobi Matthews might have murdered her.
The coincidence of there being a serial killer, serial rapist, are operating in the same area where I have a missing girl, it would only be prudent, in my opinion, to talk to this man and see if he knew anything about Brandi Stahr's disappearance.
When an investigator is following a cold trail, that investigator will do whatever it takes to find answers, whether it's interviewing inmates, interviewing new people, re-interviewing people, whatever it takes to find answers that right now you don't have.
But if Cawthon wants answers from Matthews, he has to hurry. The convicted killer is scheduled to be executed in days.
It is not uncommon that when people are either incarcerated or to the point of being executed, that they become repentant in the things that they've done. And it was my hope that had Matthews been involved in the disappearance of Brandi Stahr, that I could appeal to that sense prior to his execution.
Cawthon grills Matthews.
Yanobi Matthews told me in very plain terms that he couldn't help me.
If he did kill Stahr, Matthews took it to his grave. He was executed hours after his interview with Cawthon.
This was just another in many leads that turned up nothing.
Cawthon doesn't have anything, so he does what all good cops do. He goes back to the beginning and starts over. Files, interviews, evidence, he takes a fresh look at all of it.
It may be cliche, but we never stop. We don't stop until we find either Brandi or someone who may have killed her.
All of Cawthon's hard work seems to have stirred up a lead.
A friend of Brandi's received an email saying that she was okay and that she had left and that she knew that her roommate would understand and just to don't tell anybody.
But this email might not have come from Brandi.
I didn't believe that this email was legitimate, and I didn't believe that she was okay. Whoever wrote that email could have been someone attempting to maybe throw the police off in their investigation. Could have been someone who had harmed her or still had her with her.
It's possible that Stahr hasn't been murdered. Maybe someone has her and won't let go.
Abduction is a real possibility in missing person cases, especially when a woman is missing. If one of these abductors is careful enough, they can hold somebody for a very long period of time.
I thought, how can you not investigate this lead? How could you overlook something that would be so simple, so easily investigated?
But he can't trace this email to Stahr or a possible kidnapper.
There was just absolutely no trace of her in any way.
By now, 6 years have passed since Brandi Stahr disappeared, and her family has to make some tough calls.
For my own peace of mind, I was going to have Brandi declared legally dead on the 7th year of her disappearance.
After looking at all the facts of the case that I had at the time, yeah, I was convinced that Brandi Stahr was dead.
But just when it looks like the investigation is over, there's one more tip, one last lead.
The tip was so specific in nature that I and the others involved in this investigation believed that Brandi was alive.
Is Brandi Stahr really alive, or is this just more false hope? Brandi Stahr's been missing for almost 7 years. Her family and the cops think she's dead, but a tipster says different.
Everything was changed on the day that we got this anonymous phone call.
Good morning.
The information that came from the tip indicated that Brandi was living in Kentucky and working at a store.
Yeah, that's Brandi Stahr. She's here now.
Could Brandi Stahr really be alive after all this time?
Brandi. Brandi, there's a cop out here.
At that point, I contacted the United States Marshal Service.
For me?
Yeah.
Do you know what he wants?
Yeah. He wants to talk to you.
And the U.S. Marshals discovered Brandi Stahr working in that store. They saw her stocking a shelf.
Almost 7 years after she disappeared, Brandi Stahr is found alive.
When I got the news that Brandi was alive, I was relieved. Shocked, but relieved. Because for years, I had thought she was dead and that we'd never see her again. And I was just happy. I couldn't wait to get home to tell my husband, to call her brothers and her sisters and let them know that she was alive.
Brandi Stahr says she left Texas and never looked back. She took off after her mother stopped her allowance and told her to move back home.
Brandi, where are you going?
Away from here. Away from you.
Brandi!
She blamed me for stopping the money. When I talked to Brandi, she said she had thought of us every day and wanted to contact us, but that she'd been gone so long, it was hard for her to pick up the phone and call.
While Brandi was missing, either by luck or by design, Brandi avoided all the pitfalls that many people fall into when they're trying to disappear. She didn't apply for credit. She didn't have a checking account. She didn't establish a residency anywhere. She didn't apply for a driver's license. And because of these things, Brandi stayed very well under the radar.
This was a tiring case. For years, this girl was missing. Persistence in a case like this is absolutely crucial. You have to keep going. You have to exhaust all possibilities until you finally find your answer.